Hey, so what do you like about your dad?
That is fun.
I don't know. What do you like about your dad?
Cause it's funny.
I don't know. What does your dad do for work?
Work advisor. Work advisor.
And what does he do? What does he do for work though?
Helps people.
Helps people do what?
Handle their money. Handle their money.
Okay. And what do you wish your dad did more?
Play with us more. Yes.
Play what with you?
Everything. Everything. And the PC. No.
On what?
No PC in your mind.
What do you wish your dad did more?
I wish that you play with us more. And everything.
Ethan, what do you think?
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Biz Dad podcast. Today, I am thrilled to have Litan Yahav here with me to chat about being a dad, being an entrepreneur, going around doing his business operations. There's been a bunch that he's been involved in. I'm really looking forward to kind of chatting with him. But to start it off, if you can, go ahead and tell us about your family, kind of what you did do for business, and now what you do for business, and then we'll kind of take it from there.
Sure. So background. So let me start from the end. I'm 41, married. I have 3 kids. I was born in the States in Los Angeles, California. And when I was 9 years old, a good friend of my dad died in a car crash. And my parents said, well, life is too short. They packed us up, me and my brother, and we went on a trip around the world.
Nice.
First stop was Israel. My dad's Israeli. My mom's American. But actually, my mom wanted to stay there. And we just stay there. And so my mom told my dad, you can go wherever you want. I want to raise my kids here. And so I've been in Israel most of my life. Served in the Navy for 6 years, the Israeli Navy. And then after Navy, went to school, studied law and business, and founded a startup about 12 years ago in a crazy diamond and jewelry industry. We did 3D imagery for diamonds, hardware, software for photographing diamonds for trading purposes, had operation in all the diamond exchanges around the world, and create a standard for how to photograph, analyze, and trade polished diamonds online, and sold that company 8 years ago to an e-commerce website in the US. Stayed on for a few years to scale that. And then 2018, me and my co-founder left that and traveled a bit with our families, did like a 3-month trip. My co-founders, we're good friends, wives are friends, kids are the same ages. And I did that for a few months, iterated different business ideas for a few years. And about 3 years ago, founded a new company out of our own need to manage our stuff, our finances, that turned into a new startup, which is called Visor, which is what we do today, which is basically a wealth management startup. So that's like a very, very long 41 years of history in a short 40 seconds or whatever that was.
Awesome. All right. So we found out that your oldest and my middle have the same birthday. We found out right before this call. So that's awesome. So happy early birthday. By the time this comes out, it'll be a couple months after the birthday, after our kids have birthdays. But happy early birthday to your eldest. But so I want to rewind a little bit, quite a bit actually, to go back to almost to the beginning. Obviously, you moved to Israel, but tell me what it was like, kind of growing up with your dad. I mean, especially your dad and your mom, but focusing on the dad side of the house. Obviously, there was some things he dealt with that led to you guys traveling around. But what was it like kind of growing up? What kind of life were you living before and after the move to Israel?
That's an interesting question. So I was born in Santa Monica, Los Angeles. My dad at that time he served in the U.S. military, then some part of Social Secret Service, and during that time he was stationed in Los Angeles, which is where he met my mom. And a lot of Israelis have this, dream to move to, like a lot of immigrants, to move to the U.S. and make it and build it here. Mm-hmm. And then he met my mom, and they settled down. He started a business in the U.S., which was going pretty good, and we were really involved in that. I remember as a kid, and I was really involved. Like my parents would involve us in these things that were happening. I remember my dad, there was one, at one point in his career, he sold these emergency kits, like these small bags with emergency equipment, and he sold them direct to consumer stuff. And then there was this huge earthquake in Los Angeles, which just like quadruple, like it just pushed the business. I remember that as a kid.
Yeah.
And then we did these, they took us, me and my brother, and we do pictures with this emergency kit, like next to demolished houses or whatever. So I remember being involved in that as a kid. And always, I think both my parents are like these risk takers, out of the box approach to life. Always been driven to believing that I was capable of doing whatever we think we want to do, that if we put our mind to it, we can accomplish whatever we think, whatever we want. A lot of more like high moral standards as a kid, integrity and honesty, obviously above most. And so like in the States, I do remember like, a lot of together with my parents a lot. Obviously when we moved to Israel, it changed because we moved, that what the objective wasn't to move. At least I don't think that was the objective, unless my mom had this hidden agenda of to move us to Israel. But during those first few years, my dad was like back and forth to the U.S. for his business here and back to Israel. And so those first few years, like from a dad-child relationship, he was gone a lot. But I don't remember that affecting much of the relationship. It was a lot with my mom, which isn't a bad thing. We had a good childhood. I can't complain. We didn't grow up wealthy or anything, but not poor. We were, classic middle class, I guess.
I don't know. You had enough money to be able to jump and go, say, I'm going to go gallivanting across for however long and then move to a different country. So that's pretty solid.
At that point, Israel wasn't expensive. Now Israel is extremely expensive. But I remember when the friend of my parents, when he died in that car crash, and they decided to pack us up. I remember that sort of that moment of like life is too short and we need to experience it together. And the idea was to homeschool us for a year. And we found ourselves in Israel and didn't go back.
Okay. So you mentioned your dad was in the U.S. military. Is that right?
No, my dad's Israeli. He was in the Israeli military.
So he was in the Israeli military, and then
the Israeli Secret Service, and then he was the Israeli consulate in Los Angeles, which is where he met my mom, who was.
Oh, okay. Now it's coming together a little better in my brain. I was like, all right. So I was wondering when he moved to America. So he was still working for the Israeli government when he was in L.A. when he met your mom.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes much more sense. That clears that up in my brain now. All right. Yes. Very good. So how old were you when you guys moved to Israel?
I was 9 years old and my brother was 7.
9 and 7. Okay. And then what did you think, like the difference obviously between like, hey, I'm in Santa Monica and now all of a sudden I'm in Israel. Like, how did that feel for you as a 9-year-old?
Oh, dude, I hated my parents. We didn't know Hebrew, and Israeli kids can be difficult, to say the least. And it was also I remember being socially well positioned, let's say, in this elementary school, my first, second, third grade, whatever that means. And then moving to Israel, I was like shy, not speaking with anyone, a complete follower. It was difficult. Like that first year move was extremely hard. My brother even got it worse. Like he got beat up as a kid. It was a harsh experience. But as my mom says, when we moved in the U.S., we had television with endless channels, and crime in LA was at the level where I'd be, feared into not going out at night because I'd be killed for my Nike pumps or Reebok pumps or whatever they were. And in Israel, like we were just there visiting my dad's parents, and during the first week we were there, like I was taking a bus alone to the city. I was 9 years old.
Yeah. And
so it's like, and there was only 2 channels on TV, and it was just like a different mentality. And my mom just loved that, simplicity, and freedom. And I think that's the key motivator for her decision or their decision. But she was the initiator of that to move to Israel.
All right. That's I don't know. Do you get the sense that your parents had any talks about that at all? Like, I mean, obviously your dad probably talked about Israel and, was able to share all of that with your mom, that maybe that created some of that desire to move there, until she actually saw it for in person.
Hell no,
But how do you think that kind of?
no. My dad did not want to move to Israel.
Oh, really?
He did not want to go back. It was easy. He had a good life in the U.S., a business, like many immigrants in the image, like the U.S. It's easy to make money. It's easy to build a business. It's easy life. You have space. I mean, as opposed to Israel, it's hard. It's a constant grind. It's like the best comparison is like, imagine just like living in New York but on a country level. Like everything's like fast speed, like aggressive, and and my mom growing up, she was in Israel as a child. It's just like I think she was 16. She visited Israel and she loved it. And so it was. I'm assuming the way it went down was actually as my mom tells the story, is that they were in Israel at Jaffa, which is the old city of Tel Aviv near Jaffa, like on the beach, saying, "My dad, listen, we're not. I want to raise my kids here. We're going to stay here." And I'm assuming my dad was like, "What? Hell no, we're not. No way." and so, but I mean, essentially, or eventually, I guess he understood that it was. I mean, looking back, I love the life we have in Israel. Like growing up in Israel was amazing, and I saw my friends that I had in the U.S. Although it was like really early age, right? But I saw them develop and me develop, and it was interesting to see the differences. It's pros and cons. It's a constant trade-off, but I'm really happy that my mom pushed for that decision. I don't regret it. My mom might now, but and her parents and siblings were giving her a hard time because she took the whole family away from them, and we had a really close, cousins and uncles and aunts and grandparents. Yeah.
So what made you say that your mom might regret it now?
So first of all, my parents divorced. Not when I was a kid. They divorced when I was like 24. And my mom now lives in Europe. She doesn't live in Israel. I think Israel is from the mentality is very high paced, very sort of direct conversations. There's no like hypocrisy. If someone thinks something, they're just telling it to you in your face. They're not going to be nice because they need to be nice. And so there's a level of naivety that you have in the U.S. that is very hard in this type of country, especially at the older age. Like my mom, she was, I think, 36 when we moved to Israel. And I mean, it's really hard to change. Also the language barrier and the culture barrier. It's hard. I've seen a lot of Americans move to Israel. And couples like an Israeli guy marries an American woman. He convinces her to move to Israel. And then, it's really hard for her to adapt to the culture, and it doesn't work. And so I don't think she regrets it. It developed to a place where I don't know if she imagined it to be that way. Okay. Also the fact 3 boys in Israel, it's mandatory military service. So 3 boys getting into various combat units, that's scary for a mother. And knowing that she's the reason for that happening. If God forbid something would have happened to me and my brothers, I'm sure she would have blamed herself for that to some extent, because if she would have stayed in the States, that we would. So, I mean, a lot of emotions probably in that decision, but I think also my parents have a lot of courage even to make that move, especially my mom, to initiate that. It's a very, now as a parent in Israel, thinking about moving to the States, like, dude, you need balls in order to make that type of call. It's just like relocate everything, buy friends, buy everything, buy what you're used to. Let's start, fresh at an older age. It's an extremely difficult decision.
Yeah, it sure can be. That's for sure. I've got the benefit of being a military guy and been thrown around the world all over the place doing a bunch of different stuff. But I know that the military is eventually going to move me back to the States. It's a completely different thing when you go over there and you're shut off. It's like, no, this is where we're at now, and that's a difficult place to be. So your dad he was Israeli military, Israeli Secret Service, and then started a business. How did he go from doing government work like that to then, let me go start a business? How did that kind of venture start for him?
Yeah, so in Israel, it's a different mentality. So when you don't see the military as a job that you can go do a career in. It's sort of that there's a start and end date, and then when that end date reaches, sort of you hit the ground running. And a lot of Israelis just they go and start businesses. Sort of I guess in that mindset of the grind of like, all right,
Yeah.
making it, building it, doing it. So he did a big multiple entrepreneurial stuff in the States. And he had an adventure company and then this emergency kit company and some other stuff. And I guess it felt natural to him. I don't think there was like a lot of thought put into it. It also might have been it might have been also a situation maybe hard for him to get a job. I don't know.
Yeah. Did he have partners in those businesses, or was that just he and his wife?
Wow, that's a good question. I think he did have a partner in one of those businesses, but most of the time he was just on his own.
Okay, very nice. And now I'll fast forward a little bit. Is that kind of you started off? You said in the Israeli Navy, kind of did that for obviously your mandatory service, and then jumped into entrepreneurship. Do you think you went into entrepreneurship because that's what you saw your father do, or did you have a different path that you had in mind and just ended up with this? How did that transition go?
I think I never thought about doing this because that's what my parents do. Because my dad's an entrepreneur. Obviously, a lot of conversations we have these similar attributes and conversations. And like he'll tell me, "Wow, I can't believe you're thinking that way. That's exactly how I thought when I was your age," and blah blah and all that stuff. But for me, it was more like my passion wasn't necessarily to start a business. My passion was to solve a problem, and solving that problem through a business is just like it's one plus one. So I remember, before the military, I when the internet was starting, I guess like the late '90s, I'd sort of I'd try to teach myself to code maybe a little and because try to solve problems. Like inefficient problems, how I can just solve that because it's stupid that that inefficiency exists. Let's see if I can solve it with some tech. And so, like from an early age, I sort of move in that direction of solving problems with technology. And in the military, you always look at, for us at least, like an out of the box approach to solving problems because we're a small military. You always have to improvise.
Yeah.
Funding is like there's we don't have money thrown at us, and so we have to find ways to make win with what we have. It's a constant phrase in the Israeli Navy, at least in the military, is that this is what we have and we're going to win with it. And so I guess that also was always this like I feel like that was entrepreneurial in a sense for me. Then after that as well, so that's like the segue. I don't know. I'm assuming. So my parents, like I mentioned at the beginning, they've always pushed me, my brothers, to think and believe that whatever we set our mind to, we'll be able to accomplish. That's one. Two, the way my parents live, this risk-taking approach, was also, I think, a key in me feeling comfortable taking these risks in business. And that failure is an option. It's important to fail because when you fail and fall, that's when you learn and do better. So it was definitely pivotal in my upcoming how my parents and my dad lived and what they taught us.
Awesome. Yeah, I usually say failing is a requirement, but really it's not failing as long as you fail forward and you learn from it. Then it's not really failing. That's just learning. That's just part of the process. So I wish that I had seen. I guess I would say I used to be like the kind of guy to almost be jealous listening to a story like that and go, man, I wish that I had that exposure when I was younger, just to know that there were options out there, that there were things to be able to do. But I never really had that. I just, I saw my parents join the military, so I joined the military, and that's just what you do. I had no idea. I didn't come from anywhere else other than that. Like we're going to go and that's just what Adam's going to do. I didn't know any different. But, learning that failure is a good thing is, I think, an extremely valuable tool to provide to our kids and to show them that this is This is just part of growth. I'm struggling right now trying to teach that to my oldest, and allowing him to actually believe it, because he hears it, but I don't think he believes that failure is okay. Like, he just, in his heart of hearts, is like, no, it's daggum not, Dad. And it's so it's so difficult to work through. How do you think that when you were a kid and you saw that risk taking, were there like deliberate conversations with you as a child? I know you mentioned that you were working in the business and stuff, but were there deliberate conversations with you that made you realize that failing was an okay thing, or is it just that you saw it happening, or how was your exposure to that?
No, I don't think it was ever as a child ever in a business or entrepreneurial context. It was more around sports. Like, it's like or snowboarding or skiing. Like, yeah, it's when you fall, that's a good thing. That means that you're trying something new, and you might still fall again, but you're going to fall better because you're expecting it, right? So, it wasn't. I don't remember growing up that was ever instilled in me in like the business side of it. It was more the day-to-day stuff. Yeah, failure was an option.
Okay. When you said that you were, part of the business and you remember doing things inside the business as a kid, what did you recall? How much exposure did you have in that? Or was it more just like, we wanted you to take some pictures, we want you to just,
yeah, it sounds sexy, more sexy than it is. It was just like, yeah, let's take, because we want a picture of a family. So me and my brother, my dad, and mom and dad would go take a picture with this emergency kit on this rubble. And so it was more like that. Okay. And they're packing these bags, because you have these like this is the water and this radio that you have this like dynamo thing you turn, and so just packing all these different emergency stuff into emergency bags. I remember doing that as a kid, but again, I don't remember it as a business experience, more as a family experience, to be honest.
Did you get paid to do that?
No.
Because now you can realize how much you could pay your kids, and it's a tax write-off for your business and all the stuff. It's great to have all that stuff.
I heard about all that stuff. No, unfortunately, not.
And even if you did, it was funny. There's a guy, we just came back from like a little GoBundance Florida event, and there was a guy there. Claudia was talking about, how you could pay your kids, and he's talking about, his, however old, I don't remember how old he said his two oldest kids were, but like 9 and 7, something like that. And he's got a 1-year-old. He's like, well, my 1-year-old's not very good with his money, so I manage his money, but my 9 and 7-year-old, they're really good with their money, and they choose to pay for their private school with their money. So now their private school is paid for by the money that I paid them for working inside the business, and so now he gets to pay for the private school without, and take the tax deduction of the business, and the kids pay for the private school. It's like, that's phenomenal. What a great, you do have some good kids thinking about, financial planning at a young age, and, being responsible with their education. That's awesome. So,
yeah, it is.
And got me thinking a lot more about, okay, well, how do I include my kids a bit more in what I've got going on? I keep talking about it and I haven't really fully executed on it, but so I want to rewind again. Fast forward, rewind. Who knows where this conversation's gone? It's gone back and forth. But you mentioned you didn't start wanting to start a business. You wanted to solve a problem. How does one come across the problem of diamonds and displaying them and taking pictures? How does that problem arise on your scope of things that need to be fixed?
It's every morning you wake up and you just see diamonds laying around.
I know. I looked at my wife's ring and I said, I think when I bought that, the picture could have looked better. I don't,
Yeah. So after the military, and we're fast forwarding, I guess, a bit, but after the military, I went to school, right? I was 24 years old, I think. And this was, a college in Israel, and I was at college, I was working as a sailing instructor because, Navy, and makes sense. And then my last year of school, I got into this program that's funded by Sam Zell, the billionaire philanthropist who unfortunately died a few months ago. And he funds this program that is focused on entrepreneurship and leadership during the last year of studies at this school where I went. And I got into that program, and it sort of like goes from, team formation to finding an idea to solve, and then building a business around that, and then, everything along those lines for a whole year. So it's not an accelerator, but it's more it's like an academic program, but it's also really like real world, foots on the ground experience. And so the beginning of that program, it's like, all right, you form a team. We were 4 guys, And now we're set with this objective to go, all right, let's go find a problem to solve and a business to build. And when you're sort of starting from scratch and looking for those types of businesses to build, you sort of either you have an idea or you have a problem, or you want to find and explore what problems are out in the world that you can solve with this team. And we just started speaking with tons of people. And at some point, a friend of a friend who worked in the Israeli diamond exchange buildings, and Israel used to be, or still is, there are like 5 hubs in the world for the trade of diamonds.
Okay.
And Ramat Gan, which is a city in Israel, is one of those hubs. And so this guy took us around the diamond exchange building, which is like imagine the most advanced security methods in the military, and then multiply that by 5. That's like the entrance to a diamond exchange building. All right. It's like biometric scanning, and they take a picture of you, and then you have to go to the specific floor. It's just like crazy. So, but then when you cross security, it's like you're 50 years back in time. You like walk down these hallways with a lot of doors and notes, with handwritten notes on the doors saying, I'm looking to buy these and these types of diamonds. I'm looking to sell these and these types of diamonds. And you have brokers walking down these hallways with suitcases full of diamonds knocking on doors. That's locally. So imagine how it happens on a global standard. Like these are people flying around the world with diamonds in places that you can't even say on a podcast to try and sell and buy these diamonds. And so the whole industry, like super inefficient, super like, family-based, old-fashioned based, handshake stuff, trade. And we're like, wait, you can buy a Porsche on eBay. Why can't you buy a diamond, like see it good online? And so let's just, how hard could it be? Let's take a diamond, take a really good image of it, like 360, and give that as a service to these diamond dealers. Instead of traveling around the world with diamonds and selling and buying them, just send an image. Yeah. We're ignorant, 26-year-olds, 28-year-olds, whatever we were, and thinking everything's possible. And we found a tech guy, gave him a diamond that another friend lended us, and asking, hey, can you photograph this diamond in like many different angles to create a 360 like interactive image? And it took him like a day. We paid him a few $100, and he came back with this 3D image with a link to an image that's like a really high resolution image of a diamond. And we showed that to people, and they were blown away. And basically we took that and we went to an investor and said, hey, we can take this image and we can create a machine that does this over and over again and create a standard. The funny thing is, until today, we have not managed to recreate that first initial image.
Oh, really?
but we still did a like really, really good job at consistently photographing diamonds. And we built this like microwave machine that you put a diamond in, and it creates that image, and you can then trade it online. Now that's the standard for diamond imagery. So almost every diamond you'll see online is photographed with our tech. So that's a story, like how we reached it. It's a crazy, but one of the things that sort of gave me and my co-founders is sort of this understanding that even if you know nothing about an industry, you can learn. And most of the time, that's an advantage that you know nothing about the industry, because you don't have the limitations, like the mindset that something's not possible. Because you say, hey, you look from the outside, hey, this is stupid that it works this way. We can solve it. So anyway, that's the diamond industry.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I think that, having that perspective is similar to why people have boards of advisors for their business, right? You want people from other industries that are looking at things differently, that maybe have done things that you haven't done, maybe obviously not in the same way that you've done it, so that you can have those different perspectives and bring the idea of solving a problem forward, right? How much, kind of pushback did you get inside of the diamond industry, especially there in Israel, when they're all so used to, no, you can't do that. And that, like, how much pushback did you kind of get? And like, no, we're still, I just need to bring that briefcase over to X country to really make this sale. Like what kind of stumbling blocks did you see there?
Oh, dude, that's a great question, because the responses we got were crazy, like in a bad way. Like we're like, no one is ever going to buy a diamond based on an image, or I want to smell the diamond before I buy it. I'm like, what the hell? There's no smell to a diamond. What are you talking about? I want to see the life in the diamond. There was a ton of those responses, but these were predominantly from the older segment within the industry. The younger generation, the kids because these are family-run businesses, they were born with freaking iPhones in their hands, and they want technology, and they want to be able to, open their phone and look at an image, right? And so it was a great timing for us, because, there was a transition going on between that the younger generation, the older generation. A lot of problems with trading diamonds around the world, with customs limitations, and a lot of politics involved with that as well. But the initial responses were like, no one's ever going to buy a diamond based on this.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard.
Interesting. Yeah, I bet.
We spent the first. So like we started the company beginning of 2012, and in 2013 we opened a subsidiary in India, because India, not many people know, accounts for 95% or even 99% of the global diamond polishing or manufacturing. It's all in Mumbai and Surat. That's India. And so my co-founder and I spent 6 months, 2 weeks on off to Mumbai, knocking on every single door in the Diamond Exchange building in India.
Wow.
And trying to convince people to send us their diamonds to photograph so that they can. And we the cool thing is, every diamond we photographed went online to our website, had a watermark of our company, and then when that manufacturer in India would send it to a store in New York, and the store would see this image with a Sagoma watermark on the bottom and say, "Holy crap, I want more of these."
Yeah.
And so then the dealers would have to bring diamonds to us to be photographed. So it was a cool thing. But that's it. An interesting topic, right?
Yeah. But, I think it comes down to, regardless, like you said, going into it with a problem to solve, not necessarily a business to start. And the larger the problem that you solve, or the more people that have this problem, the more money there is in it to make, right? And there happens to be obviously a lot of money to make in diamonds. So solving a large problem that makes transactions easier, that makes life easier for all these people, especially those top 5 that you were talking about across the globe, I would imagine that makes for a hefty problem, that creates a hefty drawing for your stuff. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
You sold it you left it completely in 2018, right? After you'd sold it in, what was it, 2016? I think 15. You said 15. So you sold it 2015 and then leave the company in 2018. So your kids, your oldest was just born really when you had that. So what do they think now? How much do you talk about what your previous business was compared to what you do now? How did the conversations go with your kids around your business?
So my oldest was born like a month before. He was born December, right? And we sold we signed the documents in December, I think, of 2014, but the closing, all that was in 2015. He didn't know anything we were doing that, right?
Of course. Yeah.
But and my second was born 2016, so I was still in the company. Mm-hmm. They didn't know much; they didn't understand much at that age. But I've always, so now when they're older, I tell them remind them of the diamonds, mm-hmm. and they talk about the problem solving aspect of it, and finding a way to solve that problem with technology, and what it means to market, what it means to sell, what it means to convince people. Mm-hmm. And even now with my current company, it's like, but at the end of the day, when you ask my kids, what does dad do? Like it's like they don't know what to say. Like, what does your dad do? Like saying he's an entrepreneur is okay, but at the end of the day, what they say is my dad makes money.
He's got a printer in the back. He's got all these ink cartridges. I don't know how he does it. He just prints it off. I don't know.
I'm trying to convince him to say, when people ask that question, it's just, dad's a problem solver.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, that's what you should be as an entrepreneur, is be a problem solver, right? And in life we should be, right? But, I'm wondering, just popping into my head, we tend to, in the, American school system, not really value problem solving. We call it problem solving when you're completing a math problem, but that's the most problem solving we really do in most of school. What was it like growing up in school in Israel? Did you feel like it was similar? Like you're just here to sit down, you're here to learn these core things that we have for you, or was there a bit more like thinking outside of the box a little bit? Because if you look at what we've done here in America, like it's more of a we're teaching you how to go be a factory worker, right? You sit down, and when the bell rings, you learn a little bit. You stand up when the bell rings again. You walk out. You're doing exactly everything we need you to do, just like you would on the factory floor. But I don't think that really encourages a lot of thinking outside the box. But I'm curious what your experience was growing up in Israel, and comparing and contrasting what you saw between the two.
Yeah, I think that I don't know if this is the answer you want to hear, but I think the school system in the U.S. versus Israel is there's more choice in the U.S. in school as there in Israel. So I remember growing up, and I spoke with my friends, the ones that I stayed in contact with from the States. And, in the U.S., in high school or middle school, you get to choose electives, classes, right? Similar to university and college. You already start that in high school in Israel, right? If I'm correct. In Israel, there's almost no such thing. Like, you don't have that much choice. Like, you're told what you're going to study, and that's it. So there's not a lot of creativity and focusing on what you want to learn and what's interesting for you. It's sort of, this is stuff you need to complete. You need to get those equivalent of those finals so that you can get you don't get SATs and stuff like that in Israel. But it is like you mentioned. Like, there's not a lot of out of the box. There is a lot more today. Yeah. Like, today, it's very different than when we grew up. I don't know how it is today in the U.S. in that perspective, but there's a lot more of that out of the box approach, effective learning, as they call it. More learning through doing stuff. So I feel like today it's more emphasized than as when I was growing up. And also, when I was growing, I remember visiting the States and going. Even I think I went even to school a few times when I visited friends in LA. When I was in middle school, high school, and I felt that they were so much more advanced from a learning perspective than I was in Israel. I don't know why, but that's just how it felt. It might be totally wrong and very specific to that stuff. But after school, it's a totally different ballgame, right? Because when you finish high school in Israel, everyone gets drafted. And everything in your final years of high school, your final 2 years of high school, is getting ready for the military. You get invited to different checkups and you get to go through these mini boot camp stuff to see, all right, I get into that unit or get into that unit. There's a lot of conversation around that. So that's my childhood experience, and I'm not sure if it represents everyone in the U.S. and in Israel.
Okay. No, that makes. I mean, that's great. I'm trying to really nail down. There's no, whether I like the answer or not. It's more just trying to figure out kind of where the thought process comes from, and maybe it was more like you'd mentioned, in the military side of the house, always trying to figure out how to do something, how to solve a problem because you didn't have the funds for it, or how to solve a problem because you didn't have the equipment for it. When we went into Iraq, was at Rumsfeld. It said, you don't go to war with the army you have. You go to war with the army, or you don't go to war with the army you want. You go to the war with the army that you have, right? And it was like the same thing with the equipment and all the stuff. And the military figures it out. They figure out how to get it done. I was in a job that we did that constantly. Like, they just keep loading stuff on you, and you just have to figure it out. We don't have any more funding. We don't have any more manning. Just figure out how to do that.
Right.
And I think that if it doesn't drive you absolutely bonkers, you can use that to, at least train your brain to solve problems and figure stuff out. So, it's interesting to hear the way you said that about the military. I can totally see that, from my perspective as well, on that being a good boost into not only watching your father and mother go through, entrepreneurship on their journey, but then solving problems in the military side of the house. So, that's really cool. Now, the Sam Zell thing I'm very interested in, just because it seems like that was something that was well structured to get you kind of on the right path, which obviously was what the intent was. So is that something that you can take that structure? Or did you use that again for your second business? Did you are you taking any pieces from that experience from college to now, right? Fast forwarding 15 years.
So I think the main experience is the actual building the business is what I'm taking from that period in time.
Okay.
From the program itself, I think a lot of these structured, I want to say programs, but it's anything that was structured in my life, right? The military, high school, this program, it's like the what you do with the alumni of it, how much you connect with people that are part of that program, and how do you help give back, and how do you leverage those relationships forward?
Yeah.
And because it was a very highly curated group of people, and it continues to be, it's been going for 23. It's from 2000, and so
wow.
a lot of powerful companies have came out of the program, a lot of powerful entrepreneurs, and staying in touch. And the program has done a lot to also reunite us. And Zelle had 2 other programs, 2 in the U.S. I think it was in Michigan. I don't remember the third, but sort of there's like even cross networking between alumni, and that's like the most powerful aspect of this Sam Zell entrepreneurship program that I was in. I mean, during the year itself, like this was 12 or 13 years ago. And yeah, we had interesting courses and we met interesting people, but that's like, 5% of the value.
Okay.
95% is just, the networking after that.
Okay, that's very similar to like the same thing. I look at conferences. I don't necessarily go for who's standing on stage. I go for who is standing in the back of the room and who I get to go talk to. Those networking and everything is unreal. Same thing with GoBundance and like learning from people inside of GoBundance, and that's where the value is within that network. So
yeah, 100%. I totally agree. Yeah, the GoBundance is a great example. All these communities, right? Because GoBundance. There's content and you can go and meet, but at the end of the day, like interacting, like every city I'll go to, I'll try to touch base with as many GoBros as I can find in that city, just to hang out and meet awesome people.
That's phenomenal. Yeah, I think that's the way we should be doing it. So, how do you apply that? So, looking at raising your kids, you've got 3 kids. How are you already, or how are you looking to raise your kids inside of business and using that thought process and using that networking? How are you kind of leveraging your previous skills and current skills to kind of raise your kids in that environment?
So I'm trying to expose my kids as early as possible and as much as possible to problem solving. Identifying problems, understanding what the solutions are that exist to those problems, why they're not good enough, what solutions can we bring to the table. So that problem solving approach. And another thing is sort of negotiation. So I really believe that negotiating skills are key to anything in life. I'm a big believer, like the Chris Voss Never Split the Difference book. I love that book.
I love that book.
And I think that my kids, it's crazy, right? And he also talks about it in the book, but everything we do on a day-to-day basis is all negotiating. And I think negotiating with kids is the most advanced type of negotiating possible, right? Because you have to solve it. Like you have to. And so I try when my kids now have somehow gotten the Pokemon cards. And do you remember what Pokemon cards are? Do your kids have Pokemon? Okay, so
they don't use them, and I never used them, but I know what they are. Yeah.
All right, so I mean, I was always like against these I love Lego. Like Lego is creativity. You can build stuff. And so these other types of toys for me is like that's like a waste of time. Like, why would I want to buy a Paw Patrol figure for my kid? Like, but then I spoke with this psychologist a few years ago, and she's like, that's like core in our imagination skills. These characters, Pokemon or whatever, the creativity that it creates, the imagination that they need in order to play is such a fundamental aspect of their childhood and growing up. And the negotiation between brothers and between friends around those toys is on a whole nother level. Like my kids are sitting, like we're here in DC, right, with family, and my cousin's kids are also here. And my kids are sitting down with their kids and negotiating on which Pokemon cards to trade. Nice. And I love it. And I try to teach, all right, so if he's not willing to trade that card with you, there has to be a price he's willing to pay. You'd be willing to pay to get that. What is that price? Maybe it's 5 cards. Like, find that sweet spot that'll make him make the deal. And so, it's not like I'm really doing that on purpose, but when I identify it, this could be amazing. If they can get this sort of in their day to day of like negotiating for stuff, that can be like so much better than what I had growing up. I never thought that way as a kid.
No kidding. Yeah. I remember trading like Pogs. I don't know if you remember Pogs back in the day, right? But I remember trading Pogs and Slammers and all that type of nonsense back in, the early 90s. And, but and even trading cards, baseball, football, that type of stuff. But I never thought about it in that in that way, like the negotiation, the imagination, and actually playing those things. Because I don't remember if there was even a playing of Pogs other than when they flip over their ears or whatever. I don't remember, but you just gave me a whole different view on Pokemon, because I just look at it and I'm like, oh, that weird, silly stuff, like it's never. I'm the same way. I want something tangible, something right here that I can play with. But that's interesting. Yeah. What more? If you remember anything else, or if there was more that you and that psychologist talked about on that sense that we can kind of draw from to relay in this conversation.
I mean, that's a whole conversation on its own. Like the reason we went to this psychologist, my wife and I went to this psychologist just to solve, like, we had an issue with our middle son and things he was doing, but we wanted to solve that. And we just got these conversations. And at one point I told her about the games and the games that I like. And I'm against these types of games. And those games are like these, for me, these, worthless stuff that you can't do anything in those character type stuff. And it was really interesting for me to hear that perspective of what you just said and what I said at the same spot. Is like, wow, that's interesting. That's an interesting perspective, because this does, because I value imagination and creativity.
Yeah.
If I talk about important traits for kids, it's like, there's negotiation. But there's another thing that I had from a very early age, and I think I got this from my grandfather, and that's curiosity. Right? So being curious about something is so important, because it helps you learn new things and be exposed to new things. And so the curiosity part of it is also interesting. And now also, when you talk about these games, there's some curiosity involved in that as well. So like there are all these really interesting things when you look at, game psychology and stuff like that. That was a long answer to a short question.
No, that's quite all right. Yeah. I've always been kind of, I wouldn't say against, but like, I don't want to have video games in the house. I don't want to have a lot of like board games. I'm fine with stuff that, but it does kind of limit, at least at this point, unless I'm describing the wrong board games, that curiosity level, that, what we can draw out and get their brains thinking in a different way. There's one thing about, playing Mousetrap or, some other game that is very interactive for the kids, but another thing that's very interactive for their brains. Do you have, like video games and that type of stuff that you guys have at the house that the kids play?
Yeah. So my wife bought me a PS5 for my 40th birthday.
Okay.
And you can imagine I'm not playing with it that much. My kids are, but even that, like my middle son now is really into soccer and FIFA. And so he'll ask me, let's play a game. And I think it's really fun, spend some quality time playing FIFA with my son. Mm-hmm. And so I think there is value to those video games if there's a limit, like everything in life. You have to have those boundaries. And to your point, just on the curiosity thing, whenever we go on drives, and we've been doing a lot of road trips, we love road trips. We don't have tablets in the car, so our kids don't watch screens when we're in the car. But we listen to a lot of podcasts, and my wife and I do as well. So we just have to listen with our kids these podcasts, and we listen to a lot of these stuff that is educational but also interesting, and that triggers curiosity as well, like history stuff, but interesting history stuff, and out of the box approaches, stories for problem solving, and just like we've been more intentional now with those aspects of our day to day with our kids. So it's both from at home and in the car, and it's not 100%. Obviously, there's like stuff that are just for fun. There's no objective, no objective for negotiation, no objective for curiosity or problem solving. Just like have fun, which is also important.
Of course.
And I also think understanding that each of my kids has different needs. They're not the same. So I have a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old, but they're 18 months apart. And my 9-year-old, he was a preemie. He was born like 3 weeks early, and my middle son, who's 7, was born late. And so they're basically the same height, the same size. My middle son, even he's stronger than the older one. So like they're basically the same. They look, they don't look the same, but we treat them the same. And one of the things that happened with the psychologist we went to is that when we were explaining our interactions with our kids, we'd always put them in the same bucket. We'd say, they do this, we do that, they do that. It's like, but it's not they. These are two different people, different ages, different needs, different interests. Like they need to be treated differently. And that was also mind blowing for us to think about it in that perspective.
Yeah.
This child needs different stuff. This child is younger. He needs other stuff. We can't even expect the same from both of them. And we did. Like we expect, because they're the same size. Like we look at the same kid, like twins, but they're different, you know? So we've been really focusing on how we can help each of them in their own personality, and they're very different kids. So
yeah, we kind of my wife mentioned that to me maybe, I don't know, 8 months, a year ago, something like that, right? So we've got 4-year difference between our two oldest kids, and my wife was like, "Look, I think that we've kind of taken away our youngest boy's ability to kind of step into being." Step out of being a toddler and into being a kid, because we had the other, his older brother is 4 years older. Like, so we just kind of skipped some stuff with him that maybe he didn't get exposed to the way that the older one did, that he didn't get to experience, because it was like, okay, well, his older brother is watching something on TV, so that's just what he's going to watch, or he's experiencing something, so that's what he's going to experience, rather than getting to experience what a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old gets to experience. He was like, okay, well, I get to experience what my 6-year-old or 7-year-old brother is experiencing. And it was like, man, I didn't really look at it that way very, very well until she mentioned it. It was something semi-similar. I didn't necessarily treat them the same, obviously, because it's very easy for me to see that there's a 4-year difference. But it's, I think, important for us to at least analyze, are we lumping in, and that's one of the reasons I try to remind myself when I'm talking to, Adam has heard this multiple times, my oldest, that I've never been a dad to an 8-year-old before, right? So I'm learning how to be a dad to an 8-year-old. And then, he brought it up a couple weeks ago, where he's like, well, Dad, you should be really good at being a dad to a 4-year-old now. Like you had me as a 4-year-old. Now you have my brother. He's about to turn 5. So, you've got good experience with 4-year-old. I said, yeah, but I've never raised a 4-year-old while he had an 8-year-old brother. Like that's something that's now, that dynamic has never happened in my life. Right. So it's good for me to remember, and good for them to know that, like, I'm new to this too. I've never had to raise a child like this before. This is all new to us, and being exposed to different things. And I don't know. That's one of the reasons I started this podcast. I want to learn from dads who've been there and they've done that and experienced things that I haven't.
Yeah. But the young, I have a 2-year-old, right? So I feel like my 2-year-old, like, he's like on his own, basically. It's he's so super independent, and that's just how it is. Like I have 2 younger brothers, right? And each of us have we've grown up differently, and that's okay. I think I was also like, one of the things that it's okay, right? Like you mentioned, it's okay. Yeah. It's okay that I don't know. It's okay that we make mistakes. As long as we learn from them, and we be better the next time. Not the next time we have a 4-year-old, but just the next time interacting in that stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And my son was just building something today for quote unquote science class, right? One of the joys of homeschool is like, hey, I bought you this thing to build. So he's out building this like wooden game, and he's hammering away, and he thought he knew how it was supposed to get put together. So he just went to town, and he comes in like almost in tears. Daddy, I wasn't supposed to put this thing on. I've already nailed it to the board now, and I don't know, so it's like, that's okay. Like, it was a $10 thing. I can go buy another one, but let's see what we can figure out. So we ended up figuring out how to take it apart. He's like, well, now I've ruined it, and I've done this stuff, and I feel like I wasted your money. I said, dude, you didn't waste my money. I said, it was $10. I can go buy another one. Now, if I go buy another one, and you don't learn from what you just did, now you've wasted my money. Like, we don't want to do the same mistake over and over again, right? Like, follow the instructions, know how you're supposed to do it, put the thing together, and we'll be all right. You're not wasting my money. Like, this is part of science class. Like, it's okay. Like, we're not, no one's dying today. You'll do just fine. Like, it's a piece of wood.
It's like the process of what's important, right? Not the end game.
Exactly. Yeah, the process of learning how this goes and how this all works out, and and even the process of, like, if you smash your finger with the hammer, that's okay too. Now you're learning how how to hold the nail before you smash your finger, right? But to me, I mean, that process and that enjoyment of watching him, like just looking at him in the backyard going away with a hammer, and I gave him a hammer and some nails the other day, and he wanted to build a ladder with his brother. So he just had some extra wood, and he's out there just building a ladder for whatever reason. He has no need for a ladder. Like, he wanted it to climb up on his playground. And I was like, there's a ladder on the other side that's built into the playground. Like, you don't see, yeah, but I want to build. Okay, go ahead, build it. Like, learn, like, who cares? Go out and learn how to do it. Enjoy yourself. But that awesome process, I think, is just, it's fundamental in what's going on. I remember being, I don't know, I was a couple years older than him. I think it was in like 5th grade. Yeah, it was either 5th or 6th grade, probably 5th grade. I went and built this raft. We lived right on a river, and me and my buddy, we grabbed all these logs, we went and collected these logs, cut them to be similar lengths, built this raft. Not the best raft. I probably put 100 pounds of steel nails into this thing. So it was not going to float very well, especially when you put a kid on it, like on top of the 100 pounds of steel nails. But I mean, I didn't know what I was doing, but I learned at that point, this was probably not the best way to build this. I need to figure something else out. Maybe I should ask an adult to help. But like, just the experience of being able to go out and do stuff like that was, to me, super, super valuable. And I loved being able to do it. So trying to expose my kids to being able to do that is lovely for me. I did it without parents at home. Like, they had no clue that I was doing it. Stealing my dad's nails. Like, they had no clue. But it was a good time for me. You'd mentioned, I'm going to rewind for a second. You mentioned podcasts, listening. Out of curiosity for myself, what podcasts, do you have any recommendations for podcasts to listen to with the kids, and why it is that you like those?
So we have so many hours on road trips. I have so many
putting
podcasts.
You on the spot. Let's hear it.
Yeah. So there are a few of these like imaginations podcasts. One of them is like kids. It's called Kids Short Stories, and he's actually this guy Jim. He has this like channel of multiple podcasts with different similar but different storylines. And that's just like 10-minute stories. And my kids actually, when they started listening to that, we listened to like, I don't know, hours and hours of that. When we'd go on a drive, they'd ask, how long is the drive? And they'd calculate in their head how many of those stories can they listen to, which was a cool, nice. I was like, that's amazing. We're going on a 30-minute drive and it's a 10-minute. Okay, so we can listen to 3 stories. I'm like, we're going an hour and a half drive. Oh, and so it's like, that was really cool.
And what was the name of that? You said Jim was the guy who did it, but what's it called? It's
called Kids Short Stories.
Okay.
And so there's that. And then there's, I remember it's something Kids Curiosity.
Okay.
But that's like this father and daughter hosting a podcast, and just like diving into questions and going deep into answering that question. Also really interesting stuff. PBS has some really good podcasts as well. Like the Arthur podcast is also something that kids like. Mm-hmm. There's some podcasts in Hebrew, which are not relevant for this audience, but
you never know.
The equivalent would be just like, history for kids.
Okay.
I don't have any specific podcast for that, but there are some people out there that I for sure can tell, really good, in a good way, like history. And I think history is important in the gauges,
much agreed.
Imagination as well. So there's that. And then there's music that my kids listen to as well in the car. But
of course
it's funny. So we were on when I exited the last company, right? 2018, me and my co-founder and our kids, we all did a road trip. We did like we did a cool road trip to the US, Yellowstone, through Glacier to the Canadian Rockies, then west to Whistler, Vancouver, Victoria Island, down to San Francisco, and then flew to Hawaii. I had this like really cool trip. And like a month into this road trip, like my co-founder asks me, hey, so how do you deal with like charging the tablets in the car? I'm like, dude, my kids don't have tablets in the car. And he was like, what? What did they do the whole time? I was shocked that he gives his kids tablets in the car like the whole time. And he was shocked that my kids don't have tablets in the car. It was just really funny to see that. Let's pan out. But anyway,
Yeah, I mean, we just did a road trip to San Antonio from Florida, and it was one of those that they were on tablets for probably too much of that trip. I try to limit a little bit. Hey, it's time to read a book. It's time to do these things. But I thought to myself, man, we're going to be in the car for 18 hours. Like, like, and let them do something. But here I was listening to podcasts in my headphones, doing everything I can to learn and feed my brain, and it never occurred to me that there's probably podcasts that the kids will enjoy listening to. And like, what a knucklehead of me. Like, of course there's podcasts for kids out there too, so now that's, again, selfishly one of the reasons I asked about the podcast side of the house. I think that would be a lot of fun for the kids to engage in.
So I'm in DC now. We're driving down to Florida in a few days to, Southern Florida. It's a 15-hour drive. We're going to split up for a few days. I'm not going to do that.
Yep.
I don't know if you did that in one haul, like from Florida to San Antonio, or you did like a few days?
So, no, not with the kids. No, I've done that haul by myself, but not with the kids. I won't do it. Yeah.
So we need to plan out that as well. But I'll send you some.
All right, sweet. Yeah, and if you're on the West Coast side of Florida, let me know, and I'll try to link up with you. That'd be great. But it sounds like you're staying on the East Coast. I'm in Tampa. Yep.
There's a good crew down there.
Yeah, we've got a solid crew of GoBundance guys here in Tampa, so it's I've been enjoying it for sure. So I do want to ask a little bit about you obviously a bit more of a sensitive topic here. Like, coming in, you brought your family here now to the U.S. You happened to be in the U.S. when the attack happened in Israel. Kind of walk me through how you have communicated atrocities like that with your children. How do you work through a situation like that with young kids? Like, how much do you expose them to, or how much did you expose them to? How much do you want to? Do you think that you expose too much, maybe not enough? Kind of, let's walk through that a little bit and just kind of learn from you.
Sure. So first of all, for context purposes, so we live in Israel, and my kids have experienced sirens and rockets falling. And so, they know what that means. And so when I told you, we flew out to the U.S. for 3 weeks of conferences that I went to, and I didn't want to be away with my family, so my wife and kids came with me for those 3 weeks. We made it into a whole trip, so that was cool. A week into that trip, October 7th happened in Israel, which was that horrific attack of kidnapping and killing, whatever, all that really sad stuff. And then simultaneously, rockets began coming down all over southern Israel from Gaza, and they still are, and now also from the north. And so there are two implications of that situation. There's a day-to-day, which is there's a siren, you have to go into the bomb shelter, rockets are falling. And then the second part of it, which you don't feel ongoing, which is, the stories of what happened and those, atrocities. So, and obviously, my kids, we're here in the States, and we tell them, guys, we're not going back at the moment because there's rockets falling, there's a war, there's rockets falling, there's sirens, and so we're going to stay here. We also know that our flights were canceled, and they were. And also because of the business, we're also staying here so that I can continue to work on the business. And so that's all they know about what's happening back home. They don't know anything else. All they know is there's a war, there's rockets falling, and our flights were canceled. And obviously that triggers, wait, are we going to be stuck here forever? Wait, we miss our friends. Can we talk with our friends? Can we go? When are we going to go back? And then it's navigating those questions and responses. And I think, we've been pretty open about it. Yes, we will go back for sure. Yes, there are still rockets falling, but we're safe, and we will be safe even if we go back. And so but and we will go back. So we're going to go back probably in a few weeks after I'm done with, conferences here. And then when we go back, they're going to expose to a whole nother level of atrocities, not because we share it with them, but because one, they have friends who have older brothers and sisters who are aware more of what happened. My 7-year-old has kids. He's in second grade, and his friends know that there were kids who were kidnapped from their sleep. And his older brothers also probably know about, the even more horrific stuff of what they did to other kids. And we shouldn't talk about that here, but they did other horrific stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sure they're going to be exposed to that. and like, Israel, like I was told, like, people driving down highways, there's huge posters now on the like main highways of pictures of the kidnapped kids, trying to increase awareness to let's do everything we can to retrieve these hostages. And so like even driving down the road and they'll see that. So there's a lot of like mixed feelings about going back. Like,
Yeah, I bet.
we're going to expose our kids to this stuff knowingly. But the value of going back and being with friends and family and around, that environment is also important. And helping, like, serving my country is also important. And so this internal conflict of like what to do. And we have made a decision. We're going back anyway. And we'll deal with it when we deal with it. I think it's really important for our kids to know that they are safe and they will be safe no matter what. So
yeah, I would imagine there's also a level of teaching some resilience through all of that and learning like how to deal with trauma, how to deal with terrible things. Like I've gone on various different levels of what kind of exposure I want. Right now I'm able to kind of test it with my oldest, about to turn 9, and kind of like what level of daddy's previous experiences in his old life can I expose you to for actually learning something, right? There are some horrendous, terrible people in the world, and that's just part of living on this earth, right? It's a terrible part of living on this earth, but it is part of living on this earth. So how much do I expose them to versus shelter them from? And I like to think that I want to shelter them from the physical pain and as much as I can from the emotional pain, and just come at it from a logical mindset of this is what happens. Like, war is terrible, life is terrible sometimes, but we get through it. Daddy's still, able to be here and raise my 3 wonderful kids, and I'm able to work through these things. And I'm just kind of curious, I don't know if I'm really asking a question more so than just trying to create more conversation, because I don't really know that level of exposure to give even my kids on my previous experience. And you're about to literally help, like, bring them on that journey with you on what that looks like firsthand. How was the conversation behind that? What was the thought process with you and your wife? How did you guys talk about that to make that decision to kind of go back and open that curtain a little bit more for the kids?
I don't think there's any part of that sort of decision of going back to create resilience with our kids. That's like that's not the reasoning that we tell each other about going back. Also, and every kid's, like my kids, I have no idea really why, but they are very fearful. So they're a little they're anxious a little, regardless of the situation. Like, they're afraid to be far away from us. Like they won't like if we're on the main floor, they won't go down to the basement. So there's this fear that they have for some reason, and we try to deal with it. Like, for the way I tell my kids, fear is not a bad thing. Fear is a good thing. It's okay. It's okay to have fear. It's okay to be afraid. You should not try to suppress that. You should try to deal with it. Despite the fear, deal with that situation, because when you overcome it, you'll feel so much better. Yeah. Right. And so, my kids, I'll just keep on trying to. It doesn't work all the time. Like, they'll still prevent themselves from doing stuff. Even that logic explanation comes out. I don't want to keep on preaching it. Fear is okay. It's not dealing with it is what you should work on solving. Not getting rid of the fear, but just dealing with the fact that you're afraid. And so for me, it's more, the more I expose them to trauma, the more reasons they have to be afraid, and the more difficult it will be to deal with this fear. Right? Because, we have friends in Israel, same ages, that are like telling their parents, I'm afraid to go to sleep because I'm afraid to be kidnapped. Yeah. It's like, they don't even know that level of atrocity. Like, I'm going to have to deal with a whole level of fear. And so I don't feel like I want to deal with, developing that type of resilience to that extent. Okay. But I agree. I think resilience is important. And me and my wife always have this constant, debate, and, how much exposure they should have to violence, and what are they allowed and not allowed to watch on TV. And for Halloween, should they should they have, if they want to buy a gun, should they be able to buy a gun or not buy a gun? Like why expose them? So there's this constant debate, and I think it's a very healthy conversation.
Yeah.
Between us, as long as we have that conversation, and she compromises and I compromise, and it's always in the middle there. So I definitely agree with resilience. I'm not sure that exposing to trauma, I think many times exposing to trauma is not a good thing, at least for my kids, because of their current situation anyway. And when they get older, they're going to experience it anyway. So let them get older and then deal with it. And in Israel, again, everyone gets drafted anyway to the military, so they're going to have to deal with this shit. So
yeah, certainly don't want to expose trauma, especially using that. It's a boy. Yeah, I couldn't imagine. I don't know. I'm interested to hear, even on a personal level, like how you guys end up dealing with it, and just kind of stay in touch and let me know, if there's anything I can do from this side to help, and if there's anybody that I can, if you need to talk to anybody, let me know. I'm just happy to kind of support in any way I can. But I couldn't imagine going through what you and the family are going through and what you're about to go through, and just like I told you before we even started the call, my thoughts and prayers are definitely with you guys. So.
Appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So the boy, how do you transition from that conversation, right? So you're coming down to Florida. I'm curious on that front. What's bringing you from DC down here to Florida? So, like I mentioned, we were in the States for a few weeks, and actually the plan was after there was a GoBundance event in Lake Oconee. I don't know, were you there or no? I was not. No, my conference was the same week. So.
Oh, all right. So I was at that Oconee event, and the plan was after that to fly back to Israel. And then, our flights were canceled, and we're like, all right, what do we do now? And decided to drive up to DC, stay here with family in Bethesda, Maryland. And we've been here for the past month, staying at my cousin's place. My wife has been with the kids in their large basement. We have a room there and everything, and I've been working. And we try to get our kids into a private school with my cousin's kids. And then the idea was to stay with them here in that school. And then when the semester ends, December 15th, go back to Israel. But last week we were notified that my kids weren't accepted to the school. And we're like, okay, that's annoying. We're pissed off, blah, blah, blah. Put that aside. What do we do now? Practical stuff. And we said, all right, we can head back to Israel and find a flight. Because there are flights, like the Israeli airline Elad flies back and forth to Israel. So we can book a flight and just head back. But I'm going to have to come out here again in December for a week to Florida, to a conference in Miami and a conference in Fort Lauderdale. And so we can head back, and then I'll fly out alone for a week. And my wife's like, well, if you fly back alone, you might get stuck in, because we don't know what's going to happen in Israel. There might not be flights again. I don't want that. Why don't we just stay here? And because we're not in school here in Maryland, and the weather here is becoming a little bad, why don't we just all go down to Florida and just, rent an Airbnb there, near Miami. And it'll be a lot easier for her with the 3 kids to be able to be outside in a pool or whatever. And I'll be able to work. And so we just decided that's true. Let's just do a road trip from here down there. That'll take a few days and enjoy that and have another experience. And then spend the rest of the weeks here in the States in Florida, go to better weather, meet some more GoBros down there. So that's the plan for Florida.
Nice.
Actually excited for that.
Yeah, and there's a solid group of GoBros down there outside of Miami, so you'll have some fun for sure. We were just down there for the Florida event, one of the Florida events, and it was down in Boca Raton or just outside of there, and it was awesome. Just kind of get to see everybody again, get all the Florida guys together, but yeah, lots of fun, lots and lots of fun. Yeah. I'd also, if you have the time, you should totally just jump on a cruise. Just take the kids on a cruise. Get out for, even if it's just a long weekend, a 4-day thing, you can jump right in. That's one of the benefits of being in Florida. Just get on a cruise. You could be out, go to Mexico for a day, come back, make it a nice, easy cruise. Everything's paid for. Get a nice $1,500 room the whole family can stay in, and then you could just have some fun. The free childcare, just launch them all in there. You and your wife get to go on a date while going to another country. It's awesome. So we're actually doing that in a couple weeks for the kids' birthday. Awesome. So it should be a great time. But But so when you're what are you doing? Like now you have obviously the wealth management company is what you're kind of running. What is your intention or desires to or not or have thought about for bringing your kids involved, getting them involved in the business? You mentioned doing a couple things when you were a kid. Just curious if you're wanting to kind of get them involved in the business as well. Obviously, you talked to them a little bit about it, like you mentioned earlier, but actually involvement in the business. Do you have any intent for that?
Honestly, I think it's too early for that. And it's just like 100% tech business. And so I try to get them involved in understanding money more. So what money means, what value there is to assets, what a liability is. Like that's more where I get them involved. And I think it's not just for the company, but it's overall in life. I think those are important basic fundamentals of finance, which, kids are so unaware of. There we go.
Found a Pepsi on top of the step stool. Come here. You want to come say hi? That is my Pepsi. Mommy
How's it
dropped
going,
it off
kiddo?
for me. Yeah.
Here you go.
Mr. Litan said, "How's it going? You want to say hi?"
How's it going?
Hi.
Wait, hold up the Pepsi. You get some sponsors coming by.
There we go. Let's get some sponsorships. Yeah,
The other
that's
way
there. There we go.
Boom.
Thanks for delivering it. You having a good day? Yeah. Do you know his oldest son has a birthday that's the same as yours?
December 10th?
December 10th. That's right. Yeah, that's pretty cool,
right?
He's turning 9, like your big brother.
My brother was 8.
Yeah.
He'll be 9
He'll be
soon,
turning
too,
9.
right?
Yeah. What's your brother's birthday? Do you remember your brother's birthday? You don't remember?
No.
December 1st.
December 1st.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is my brother's.
That's your brother's?
And watch.
Brothers? Oh.
Squeak. It's right inside.
Oh,
And so I thought at first it's glue.
You thought it was glue at first? Yeah.
Just don't puncture it.
Oh, are you running around? You ready to leave?
No,
Oh.
I just can't things out.
Oh, he's got things in his pocket. We're gonna
A new blue marble I found.
a new blue marble. That's a pretty cool blue marble. There you go.
And here's the one I always have.
Oh, let's step this way so people can see it.
Here's the one I
This way.
always have.
There we go. Nice. All right. All right. You want your 2 marbles? Thanks for bringing my Pepsi in, buddy.
I have a lot of beads.
You have a lot of beads. This kid collects beads everywhere he goes. Oh, and money? Goodness gracious. How much stuff do you have in your pocket?
More money.
More money. More money.
money.
More problem solving. Yes.
Yeah.
Not more money, more problems. More problem solving.
And another old bead.
Oh, my goodness.
Do they have the beads that you iron into shapes? You know those?
No, well, they don't have any. No, but that would be it. We should do that because he'll find them everywhere. Like it doesn't. We'll be walking through. Literally, we were walking. We were in a museum that was in a submarine, and he found a bead somewhere in the submarine. I don't understand how he does it, but everywhere we go, he finds a bead, and he's collecting them to give to his cousin.
Nice.
What did Adam find?
One of the beads on the submarine.
He found one of the beads on the submarine. Yeah. Do you have any questions for Mr. Litan?
Why is he named the Mr. Litan?
Why is he named that? Because that's what his parents named him. Well, I should let him ask that or answer that. Why is your name here? Let me put this in front.
Why is your name Mr. Litan?
My name is Litan, not Mr. Litan. I don't know where. But Litan it means in Hebrew, present to me, my gift.
Oh, interesting. Oh, here comes the au pair. Oh, she's shooting me with a glue gun. So his little sister, her middle name is Ziva.
Okay.
Radiance or brilliance of God in Hebrew. So
Yeah.
at least that's what Google told us. I don't know if that's actually what it means, but yeah. My wife, I used to call her Ziva from the TV show NCIS. The girl on there named Ziva, right? So my wife, she carried a badge and a gun for a long time and did that job, but for the Air Force, NCIS, but for the Air Force. And she's first generation American. And she had no idea, like American. Hold on one second, buddy. I'm telling a story. She doesn't get American colloquialisms very well. So, and just like the girl Ziva on the show, like there's one episode where she's like, well, come on, does a bear sit in the woods? And they're like, you're like this close. You almost got that one, So the bear doesn't sit. I mean, the bear does sit in the woods, but that's not the sentence, right? So I've always called her Ziva. And then when we had a little girl, Ziva kind of stuck. It was either going to be Ziva Diana or Diana Ziva. And it turned out to be Diana Ziva. So,
Nice.
But how many beads did you have? You wanted to tell us.
6.
6 beads?
Whoa.
Good gracious, buddy.
And how much I found at Sam's Club. Not
That's a lot.
Sam's Club. Where's the first place we went to?
I don't know where the first place you went to was. Don't push the button. You're going to hang up a phone call.
Okay.
All right. Now, let me have this back. I love you, buddy. I'm going to finish this, okay?
I'm not going.
Oh, you're not going anywhere? You're going to be back? Lovely.
He's cute.
He's awesome. Like, he's so much fun. The difference between those two, because, like, if Adam were to come here, he's much more of the shy, reserved, like, analyze what's going on. Oh, at Walmart you found the beads? Very good.
That's
Very,
like
very
the
good.
eldest, right? That's classic
I was
older
looking
brother,
everywhere.
I think.
I think so. Like, just kind of like assessing what's happening, trying to understand. They were all by themselves for a little while. Especially, I mean, he was 4 before we had this one. So,
Yeah.
but now Rourke is just all over the place. He loves to talk to people and be engaged and have conversation and do exactly like you just saw him doing, right?
Yeah.
So, typically, if he's on the podcast, it's because he just woke up from a nap and he's like sleeping on my shoulder. But right now, he's wide
Yeah,
awake.
Dad.
Buddy. Yeah, buddy.
I didn't take a rest today.
You what?
I didn't take a rest.
You didn't rest today? You didn't take a nap? Oh, tonight's going to be dreadful. Oh, no. Oh, no.
And
Oh.
he was singing in separate rooms.
Yeah.
I like singing in
Do you have any questions for Mr. Litan? I'm sorry, Litan, besides his name, and now you know why? What else?
Guess what my name is?
What?
No, he said what? Let me put this back in.
Guess what my name is?
Oh my God! I know your older brother's Adam and your younger sister is Ziva, but I don't know. Is it Chris?
That's the name of all my dad's friends. Chris.
Oh, really?
That's all of Dad's friends. Yeah, all one of them, huh, bud? Yeah. Rourke.
Rourke.
Rook.
Yep, that's how you spell it. Well done.
Nice.
Yep. All right,
never-
can Daddy finish my
never-
conversation now? You sure?
And this is also a good looking bead.
Is that a good-looking bead? It is. That's an awesome-looking bead. Oh, it's got red on the inside. That's pretty cool.
White on the outside.
Oh my goodness!
And I also found a green.
Isn't this the best part of the podcast for you as you're just sitting there listening to it?
Dude, it is. Yeah,
All right.
that's at a good age.
And a
a good
good
age.
looking mole.
Did you know that he has his sons listen to podcasts while they're on road trips? Like Daddy listens to podcasts. Do you think you'd want to listen to a podcast?
Well, you like playing going balls and watching stuff and everything.
Yeah, you
I
like it.
even watch Hamster's Escape Maze.
Yeah,
Mm.
you watch Word World for some of your stuff too, huh? Do you remember how to spell glass?
GLASS.
Good job, buddy. That was
Nice.
one of his words on Word World the other day. So, good job.
Ouch.
All right, buddy. I'm going to finish this chat, okay? You jump out.
You have
Can I have my
to-
headphones?
You have to get it.
I have to get this is exactly, I've got the little punk kid. Give me my headphone back. I love you, buddy. You little rascal. All right. You can sit tight if you want. All right. So what kind of, now especially that we have a guest, what kind of questions do you have for me? What kind of things did you think you'd want to touch on while we're on the podcast that we haven't hit yet?
This has been an awesome conversation. I love talking about parenting and kids. So much to still learn, right?
For sure.
Patience is my biggest struggle is patience.
Don't I know it?
Yeah,
I'm the same
it's-
way. Yeah.
But I mean, I found that for me, it's like I've never been connected to this side of myself before. But the meditation part, the mindfulness stuff.
Okay.
Like I've been getting more into that because I feel that is like helping me get into my zone. Like I'll take cold showers every day.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do like stretches and some breathing exercises just to, get myself in sync. And I feel like that helps deal with the stress. But how do you deal? Do you have anything like that you'd recommend?
Don't homeschool. That's what I'm doing. I'm homeschooling right now, and I'm not sure that's helping me. But I mean, it does. Honestly, it's one of the blessings, despite the fact that it adds a ton of stress. I honestly have been trying to figure out something better to do. I'm not one usually for meditation, just because I don't like the kind of the origins, like from the Eastern religions type of stuff, with some of the way meditation tends to go. But I know that
you've done Wim Hof.
Yeah. Yep. I've done some Wim Hof breathing, and I just did some other breath work down in Miami when we were there for the last event with Ryan, another GoPro, and it was great just to kind of relax a little bit. That was more of an intense thing, but yeah, I really I was given some Wim Hof stuff in the last at the Philly event, and I think I should probably do that a little bit more during the day. I want to be more intentional. I want to get a cold plunge, kind of start my morning that way, work some stress out that I think is going to help to, at least I hope, work on some of the patience. I used to be really bad when I was in the military, very impatient. I've actually gotten better with kids, but now as my kids are getting a little older, I'm starting to feel like I'm reverting and getting impatient again, and I honestly don't know the best way to work it right now. I'm still trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
So if you figure out the secret, let me know. That would be great.
The secret is put the work in. I think that's what we all need to do. Just put the work in, and enough excuses, right?
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah. I need to work out more too, and I think that'll probably help if I go work out a little bit more, just to kind of release some of that tension. So yeah, I wish I had a good answer for you there. So would that be, you think, like the number one thing you need to work on as a dad, or where would you put the number one thing you need to work on as a dad? What do you think it would be?
I think I've been working on patience a while, and I think I'm getting better at it, but I still have work to do there. I think my biggest thing that I need to work on now, and I've improved a lot, but I need to improve more, is being more present. Not physically present, but mentally present.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah, I'm very in a similar boat, and it seems to be, a lot of dads that I talk to, that seems to be a majority of, especially in our world of entrepreneurship. Like, our brain, even if we're not sitting in front of the computer working on whatever problem it is, or working on the business, our brain is likely analyzing something to work on the business, and it's not necessarily being present with the kids. Like, even I've caught myself, walking my son around the golf course, being his caddy, and catch myself, checking messages to make sure that I'm aware of what's happening, instead of just looking at his next shot or helping him with something, or, I've got an extra 5 seconds, let me check something real quick. And it's, it takes away from my ability to just sit there and enjoy that time of being a present father with them.
My youngest, my 2-year-old, will come to me and either pull my phone away, or push my face like this.
Yeah.
2-year-old, like, like, damn, that's like, all right, I need to level up my game. That cannot happen.
Yeah, it's super eye-opening when they do things like that. Like, you think you're doing a good job, but they are like, nah, not so much. Like,
not enough. Daddy needs to try.
Not quite.
Yeah.
I need daddy. I just recently, like 2 days ago, downloaded a habit tracking app to kind of track some of the things I'd like to do, and I should put on there, like, put my phone down for X amount of time a day, and just be with the kids, and not have my phone around, not be like, there's nothing that even if it's just an hour, half an hour, just clear, present communication with the kids. Oh, you want to tell him one more thing? Well, come on over.
My brother made this rubber band bracelet.
Wow.
Whoa. He can't hear me, but just say, whoa.
He said, whoa. What colors are they?
Blue and red.
I like it.
Nice.
He said, that's nice. Hey, do you think daddy's patient? Do you think I take my time with you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, what do you think, Adam? Adam's on the way in now too. Come on in, bud. Yep. Yep. Come on in. This is Mr. Litan. You want to say hi?
Hi.
Hey,
Do you think? Do you want a headphone?
Sure.
Yeah. Here you go. Put it in.
How's it going?
I'm going to
buddy?
ask you to put me on the spot. We were just talking about something that Daddy needs to work on is be a little bit more present with you guys, meaning that I'm like when I'm with you, I'm actually with you and you can communicate with me and you don't feel like I'm stuffing my face in my phone. Do you think I do a good job at that or a not so good job at that? Be honest.
Dad changed his password for saying.
Bad.
Not bad. Not good, but not bad.
Did you change your password for your saying?
Nope. Same password. What can I do to be better at being present with you?
Dad, once I filled out how can you
Oh my goodness.
say.
Did you?
So I tried
Goodness.
to open it, and it opened. I was sneaking off the lab, go to your safe, and then unlock.
You were unlocking my safe? That's not a very good safe then, huh? No, not so much.
Because I know exactly what that
You're a silly boy.
is.
So Adam, hold on 1 second, Rourke. I was asking Adam a question. Thanks, buddy. What can Daddy do to be more present when I'm hanging out with you? And say it into the microphone so that way it comes up on the recording. You don't want to talk about it?
Finally, I can fill it out again.
Good job, buddy.
I knew I could do it.
You opened my safe again. Lovely.
Did?
Yeah, I didn't lock it, so that might have something to do with it. So what can I do to be more present, buddy? One thing I said is maybe once a day or like every day I can have my phone completely put away for an hour. Like maybe even just put it in that safe that your brother just opened for an hour that you have completely uninterrupted time with Daddy. What do you think? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Boy, you're really interactive today. Thanks, bud.
How about Adam? Every time you see your dad with looking at his phone and not looking at you, he owes you $1. That's a good one. How about that?
What do you think? You like that idea? I don't think I appreciate that. Thank you so much for putting that on there. Oh man. Nope. Do you have schoolwork you need to do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Give me my headphone. Go do some schoolwork.
Are you going to change your
Oh man. Oh man.
That's all we know, man. It's all money. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep. I mean, and he knows the power of money. He knows what it can do for us. He knows the how big of a tool it can be.
Yep.
But all right. Well, I think on that happy note, now that I'm going to have to be pulling out dollar bills, goodness.
I filled out your
I did tell them that you found out my password for the safe, you little rascal.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I knew it goes with behind the zero and the one with the zero.
No, okay. All right.
I was like,
Well, on that happy note, I greatly appreciate you coming on. I think it was an awesome conversation. I truly enjoyed it. Right up, even including the boys jumping in here and having a good time. So, I hope that while you're here in Florida, if there's an opportunity that you come out to the West Coast, that I'll be able to see you. Or if I go out to the East Coast, I'll be able to meet you in person and hopefully bring the kids and let the kids hang out a little bit. But, thank you so very much. If somebody wanted to reach out to you and kind of chat with you, talk to you about your newest venture with the wealth management side of the house, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, first off, I appreciate this. This has been awesome. I love speaking with you about parenting and family.
Thank you.
This was a lot of fun. I'm social media, Litan Yahav, email litanadvisor.co. Just like open to talk to anything about this or anything else.
Awesome. No, it really was a really enjoyable conversation. We went on all sorts of different directions. I thank you so very much for being vulnerable, being open, and chatting with us. I'm looking forward to the next time. Hopefully we can see each other in person one day. I'll be in Vermont in January if you're going to be there for that. It sounds like probably not because you'll be headed back to Israel. But we have these Bibles. He wants to show off some Bibles. Very good. Got a whole shelf of Bibles back there, huh, bud? But yeah, regardless, I thank you very much. Let me know if there's ever anything I can do to help support. I look forward to, there's another Bible. Yeah. But thank you very much. If you can stick around for a second, thank you everybody for listening. I appreciate it. Please like, subscribe, listen. 7, almost the biggest Bible. There we go. As we're closing out, almost the biggest one. There we go. Please like, subscribe, play the episode 15 times in the background. Don't even care if you're listening to it or not. I just get some plays going on. Let's get it rolling. But thank you again for jumping on, Litan, and we'll talk to everybody in the next one.